Peace, family. Peace to all of you out there in La La Land. This is the Valentine's Day weekend, and I want to say welcome to BNN 247, the real voice of Black USA. I am your worthy brother, War Smith-Bey, and this space is about the truth, it's about growth, and it's about the Black community rising together. Today's topic is something we all need to hear because it's about communication, and that seemed to be a big deal in our life. And we've always had such hard rows to hoe. That's an old Mississippi term to get to where we're going. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to some and present to others my friend and colleague, Mr. Claude Foster, my co-host.
Glad to be with you, my brother, on the day after Valentine's Day. And so it's a joy to join you on this Sunday afternoon as we talk about an issue that I think that our listeners will find a very important topic, and that's the issue of communications. How we communicate, the ways in which we communicate, the different types of communication. So I look forward to it. I'm sure it's going to be an intriguing and insightful conversation.
I mean, this is we have such a diverse style of trying to communicate here in this country, and it's so many different languages, and people don't realize that we have our own language. A lot of people, I ain't talking about Black people, I'm talking about people outside of them being Black. They don't realize we have certain words that belong just to us. And you know them, I know them, but most people don't know that that's the case. So today, let's break down the word communication, because without it, we don't get a daggone thing done. So to start with, Claude, what would you say communication is? And as soon as you do that, I got the Black's Law Dictionary over here, and I'm going to bring that up and read the Black's Law Dictionary definition. So what do you think it is, though?
But I think it's the way communication is the way we talk to one another, the way we communicate back and forth, whether it's written, verbal, or what have you. But it's the skill sets we have for interacting with another human being.
Okay, so first, I mean, because you always got so many different, huh?
You notice what I said, skill sets that we have in order to communicate with another human being.
That's what's important.
Verbal, that could be nonverbal, that could be expressive. You know, it doesn't always just come in the form of me talking to you.
Okay. And let's start out with men to men, like me to you, and then we're going to go from men to women, and then from men to children. You know, because each one of those, and then from different, we got to add in the different places people come from in the country. You know, it's so many different dialects. So what we'll do today is just start with the beginning of communication, which is understanding what communication is. What is the definition in your mind? And I'm going to give you my mind definition as well before I go to the Black's Law Dictionary. So what is your definition from ad-libbing what it is?
I think communication.
TikTok is here too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Communication is the way we talk to one another, the way we express ourselves, the way we back and forth one another. And it's all depending on the part of the country that we was raised, the types of families that we come from. I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into communication styles. You know, people in the military communicate a little bit differently than civilians. the way they communicate with one another. It depends on the time period. It depends on whether or not you're a baby boomer or whether you're someone born here recently. So there's a lot that goes into communications, culture, uh, nonverbals, uh, all different types of communication mechanisms, hand usage, like I'm using my hand now to communicate. What comes out of my mouth, my facial expressions, uh, verbal, nonverbal, written, all different ways that we communicate with one another. And that's really kind of dependent. Now, education has kind of leveled the playing field. There are certain basic understandings in order to communicate. If you're going to communicate in English, you got to know how to communicate in English.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to communicate in some other language. If you travel overseas, the way you communicate is going to be different than if you communicate here at home. But I think that so it's a multifaceted thing. It covers many different ways in which we communicate. Culture has a lot to do with it. We can say things in the Black culture. We communicate one-on-one being Black differently than I will communicate one-on-one with a white person or with a Hispanic person because we don't come from that same understanding of language. Even though we may speak English, my formative years and the person I'm talking to formative years may be different based on geography, maybe based on culture, maybe based on some other aspect where we don't communicate, but the meanings
in
I'm with going to be different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Communication is a mother, man. I mean, it's about senders, it's about channels, it's about receivers, it's about how the message is delivered, it's about whether I want to be receptive to your message or not. It's whether or not I like your tone or not. It's of whether or not you got the right message I sent or not. It is so many different variables to what we need to do. And especially when you decode,
In fact, when I used to speak a lot, public speaking, the way you dress affects your ability to communicate, depending on the audience. You could be dressed in a way. I had a person come up to me and said, "I didn't like you the way you was dressed. You was dressed in a certain manner that turned me off. But when I heard you speak, we was okay." But I thought you was kind of uppity because you had on a pair of khaki pants and the blue shirts. So in his mind, that represents a certain cultural framework that didn't jive with him. And so the communication was affected because he saw me in a certain light, even though I had never uttered a word.
And he read the book.
Uttered a word that we got on the same page. So there's a lot of different things that affect effective communication.
Absolutely. And I agree with you on all of that. So what I'm going to do now is tell you what the Black's Law Dictionary says.
Okay.
The definition of communication is. Communicate. This is just so you know. This is a Black's Law Dictionary. That's what we're looking at.
Why do you use that as a source?
Well, because in legal references, if you're going to court and have to use any of these words, you can rest assured that if you got the definition of that word out of this Black's Law Dictionary, that you're not going to get sidetracked or ignored about what you say in court because you got the right what do they call it, rhetoric. You got it set in the right place, and because you got the right definition.
Why you chose that particular reference book?
Well, I figure it's probably better than this one. I keep a few books around,
right?
But I think the Black's Law Dictionary to me is better than this one. You see, I had to move there, right? But those dictionaries are the key to understanding of words to me. If you don't know when you look at the script spelling bee, right? The one thing that they tell you is that they go through the Black's Law Dictionary, they go through the Merriam Dictionary, and they go through a couple other dictionaries. But what they do, they learn 500 to 700 words a day. That's what that little black girl that can dribble the black basketball. She was the champion yet last year. I was listening to something about her, and she was saying how she learned how to win, and she was doing 700 words a day, and she had 3 to 4 dictionaries open, and she would go from the beginning to the end of those dictionaries over the year that they not at the spelling bee.
Right.
So,
I'm curious why that particular one.
By the blacks. That's it. There's no special thing. There's so many different dictionaries, just like there are Bibles. You got this dictionary will give you a definition this way. This dictionary will give you a definition that way. But if you go to the Black's Law Dictionary, you can't dispute what it says in there. This is the one the courts go by. So if you can be online with what they do, then you don't get messed up trying to use somebody else's stuff that don't even apply in American courts.
Right.
If you want to know what words to use, go to your Black's Law Dictionary and you can function in America. Now the other dictionaries might help you in other places, but here, these people go by blacks. Now, sender and receiver. Communication without it, nothing gets done. So if I'm a sender and I need some stuff done, I got to formulate a message. And my message got to go to you, the receiver. And when the receiver gets the message, the receiver has to decode the message. Now, how do you decode the message based on what I said? If you don't know what I said in my tone and my figure and my manner of speech, then you can possibly get my message screwed. You know, you've been in a room where the message was passed around the room, and by the time it got back, it was tore up. So when that receiver decodes that message and has to relay it to a third party, then that's where the rubber hits the road. But if it's coming back to the sender, then it's basically you being a smarter person. You're going to say, well, look at here, sender. This is what I thought you said. Am I correct? You know, this is how you avoid arguments, problems, fights, whatever else over nonsense when you can talk about it. Now, I tell people about this all the time, Claude. I'm 60 some years old, whatever that may be. And in 60 some years, I can count the fights I've had on one hand. And the reason behind that is because of communication. Now, in my little nest egg where I grew up and having fights and doing all that stuff, my communication was so different from the world because I grew up in the deep south in a little town called Inverness. And in Inverness, there are words that we use that most people ain't never heard of. Like bout. What do I mean when I say that, Claude? Bout.
About?
That's exactly what I didn't say about. I said bout. Both of them. What do I mean when I say both of them?
Okay, I've heard that one.
What does it mean? What does both of them mean? Can y'all tell me what that means? Both of them?
Two.
Huh?
Two.
Both of them mean two.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's just different dialects. So up north, wherever Claude, how did you say two in from Georgia? Where you from? Was it the same? The people there use the word both of them?
I mean, you got rural and then you got rural.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got a certain language in rural America and that you don't have in non-rural America. You know,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I grew up in Alabama, but I grew up in a city, you know, and we had a connection with an Air Force base right.
Claude had something happen. He fell off. Maybe he lost power in Houston. I think they're having some rain down there, but we can continue. As I was saying earlier, you got the sender and the receiver, and from the sender, you're formulating in your mind what your message is going to be, and then you're going to send that message to your receiver. Now, I'm just talking about two people right now. You're just having a general conversation with somebody across the room, or somebody sitting next to you, or somebody you met. Who knows? But that receiver now received those words you just said. Now, that receiver has to decode what you just encoded to get to him, or to her. Now that the receiver is decoding, it is very, very crucial and important, TikTok and people on my other networks, that you give that information back to the sender. Because if you don't, then you subject to walk away with the wrong information. How many times you went to places and got told to do something, and you figure you got it on the first time they told you, so you went home and did it, or went wherever you had to go to do it, and then you took it back, and then they tell you that's not what they asked you. And the only thing you had to do to ensure that you didn't waste your time, and that is the point of communication anyway, to keep you from wasting your time. You're going to waste a lot of time going back and forth if you don't listen and be able to decode and encode the message. You got to decode and encode the message. So when that receiver decodes the message, right, they send it back to the sender as what? Feedback. It is feedback. You're giving the sender feedback on what they just told you, just to be sure that you know what they are talking about. And then at that point, you have to realize that there are other things in the middle of the two of you, such as barriers. It could be language barriers. It could be region of America barriers. It could be mental barriers. It could be the way I feel today barriers, or yesterday barriers. It could be barriers if somebody just could have stepped on my toe. You don't know what the barriers may be, but it could be noise. The music could be loud, so you didn't hear what the sender sent. So now when the receiver goes back with the feedback and tells the sender, well, this is what I thought you said, the sender says, you missed one little point. And then they straighten it out. And now you're having a great conversation because the sender and the receiver are now functioning in a communication module. They're communicating back and forth with good information. Mr. Claude just popped back in. Let me put him back in the show. Here we go. Hey, glad you're back.
We got unstable weather up here, man. So
I figured it was bad.
We had a storm come through last night, so it's still a little bit unstable.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just going about the noise, the barriers to communication.
What are some of the barriers?
Yeah. I would say the first thing is language.
Oh, yeah. Language.
And keep in mind, Claude, we're talking black folk.
Yeah, culture. Different regions of the country, geography. Different things mean different things depending on where you from. Where you from. I mean, you was asking me before I got cut off. You were saying about, I forget, you was talking about the what's that word you was using? You was giving an example of a word.
I was? Oh, I was saying both of them.
Both of them. Yeah, I grew up with both of them. Yeah, I mean that's a common geographic language in the black community.
Well, I think the word originated in Ohio.
Oh, really? I don't know where it originated, but
I'm just saying it's a bunch of people.
Yeah. Well, the Midwest is, that's farms and you know that kind of stuff.
You know, this is our show, Claude. We can talk about what we want to. I'm throwing dirt on Ohio. That's all.
One of
Anyway,
my brothers lives in Ohio, man. So leave
oh
Ohio
yeah,
alone. My
I don't
uncle
want to throw
used to
too
live in
much dirt.
Cincinnati. We used to travel up there for vacations on the train.
Um,
Yeah,
well, in the
Cincinnati.
wintertime, I hope not.
No, when we travel, it was a that's how we go visit
Mhm.
on the train.
Well, think back, Claude. And I'm going to try to come up with this situation where my communication skills versus somebody else's communication skills got whacked, got totally effed off. So I worked at this big corporation one time, right? And I did my job was doing reports and stuff like that. So I ended up going to lunch one day. When I got back, there was a sticker on my monitor. It said "F you" in my office. Now,
Well, that could
me,
mean different
black.
things.
This is a white man going to say that to me, right? And I already got problems with that.
Yeah,
So
but
the
based
white
on
man
what
stick
you,
a sticker on my computer, huh?
why did you have a problem? Automatically have a problem with it?
Because he said "F you."
But what did he mean?
Follow up.
See,
That's all he meant. But I went down there flaming, man. I was ready to get him. And he said, no, that didn't mean nothing. That just said follow up, not F you.
right?
So you can see how easy you can misconstrue what a person is saying. So you have to be able to get into the exchange. Because if you don't do the exchange, you're subject not to get the message. And you're subject to go out and do something that they ain't got nothing to do with what you should be doing. So
So you
you
honestly
got to pay
thought,
attention.
so you honestly thought in the work environment somebody left something on you thought negative, automatic.
Because I'm already on edge with working for these
Okay,
people,
okay.
And he and I ain't never had a great working relationship.
So what did
And
he
so,
did you mention that to him about the FU and what you thought it
mhm,
meant? And
yeah,
how did he respond?
he just laughed. And I laughed too. After we figured it out, both of us laughed about it. But, that's how easy it is to go down the wrong
Right,
road.
right.
Somebody may say something to you, and you might take it disrespectful, or they might take it disrespectful and want to fight. Over something that don't even make no sense. That ain't what you're saying. Well, but in our neighborhood, ain't no when a person is upset with you, it ain't too much you're gonna be able to say to change the trajectory of that person. That person coming after you with words, with emotion, and even with physical touch.
So you're gonna get some feedback, is what you're
You
saying.
go, yeah, you gonna get feedback one way or the other, but you prefer through communication. Just talk, just verbal communication. Let me put that on there, verbal communication. Because if you just say communication, putting these hands on you is communicating. I'm communicating that I'm very upset. So you have to be very clear on what you got to say, and you need to ask for feedback. And people, being black, going up in school, I'm quiet because I don't in the army. I don't feel like I know the words I know coming out of rural Mississippi, out of high school. I feel like I'm short of the correct way to speak English in America. Now I'm saying that because I don't think I'm trying to sell out on nothing. I'm saying that if I got to function in corporate America, I got to speak corporate American language. If I'm going to
But
be a plumber,
but don't you think that's different than? Cause you went through K through 12 in Mississippi, right?
yeah,
So
every
you
grade.
learned
He's still having a little trouble. But if you're going through school, K through 12, and you graduate and you still don't feel like you have a great grasp on the vocabulary and the jargons and the words and the rhetoric that they use here in America, then you're going to have to do something about your mentality and with words and with communicating. I sit so many different meetings and not say a damn word. But I did have questions, but I didn't ask the questions because I didn't feel like I knew how to formulate the sentence to ask the question. But I'm here to tell you now, once I got past that, I was able to function. But before, I didn't know how to get past that. It takes a real, a good person to believe in themselves and to start focusing on where they need to go with their communication. If you can't communicate, then you might just be comfortable where you are. If you want to grow and you want to move in different directions, learn to speak their language. If you want to be a cop, learn the law. If you want to be a plumber, like I was saying a second ago, learn the language they use. You can't be a plumber and don't know the plumber's language. You can't be a pilot and don't know the pilot's language. So you got to learn how to communicate. You can start with English, understanding the sender and the receiver. That's the simplest part you can start with. And you can believe that your children, if you have any, that they don't always understand what you're talking about. You can give instructions, but you have to get instructions from them to complete the circle. And you don't call it instructions, but you call it conversation from the sender to the receiver and from the receiver to the sender. And then your best thing is to move out those barriers. That's why couples go to counseling, because there are barriers set in place that you may not even know anything about. And when those barriers take precedence in your conversation, you're going to have to eliminate them. And if you don't move the barriers out the way, like here in where I'm at in San Antonio, you have to know some Spanish. If you don't know any Spanish and you live in a 90% Spanish city, then you're wrong. Why is it that people come from every other country and learn English? Now, I understand that they teach English in most of the other schools in other countries, but there is an individual responsibility for every single Black person in this country to learn how to say something other than English. Learn how to speak a different language. Learn something. If you don't learn but 5 words, that's enough. You learn something different than what you knew. You got to practice this stuff, because communication is what makes you whole. And when you look at let's say a job application, one of the things they want to say, but individual must be bilingual. And if you're not bilingual, that eliminates you already, Black man, Black woman. You can't even be in the game in the game because you can't speak nothing but broken English. I'm telling you, if you want to move up and through jobs and get better pay, you're going to have to do better with who you are. You're going to have to improve your vocabulary. You're going to have to improve how you communicate. And the worst thing I'm going to tell you right now is that you're going to have to learn how to code switch. I'm sorry to say that. In America, if you don't know how to code switch, you're in trouble. And that's coming from a Black man who's been there, done that. You got to be able to do it. That don't mean by a long shot that that's who you are. It doesn't define you. You're at work. So at work, do what you're supposed to do at work to get your money. And if you got to talk like they talk like they talk. But you know, when you get up out of that environment, you're not bringing that nowhere. You leaving it there. You go back the next day, you do the same thing again till you get your check and you repeat. But the bottom line is learn how they talk, because if you got a white individual communicating to you what they want done in their business, because 9 times out of 10 we're working for somebody. 1 out of 100 of us always will be an entrepreneur. You know, it's hard to see beyond our nose sometimes. That is the problem. We got to look beyond what we know and what's out there. It's a lot of information out here, a lot of communication going on, a lot of social media platforms. And now with artificial intelligence, you might as well start going back to school, because you're going to become obsolete real soon. And I'm telling you to get your stuff together now, because you don't have time to wait in America. Not as a black person. You got to do better. I don't know how to make. Sometimes I get on my little high horse and start talking shit. So I'm taking it all back. Give me my stuff back. Give me that back. Anyways, you got to know the difference, and just throwing information out there and receiving information, and how that information is going to affect you and your family. All right, so we've talked man-to-man communication, and that's basically the bottom line of communication for us to understand how the bottom line of communication works. Bottom line of communication basically is us being normal. Our heart rate is low, and our voice is our words. If I say bout, or if I say both of them, you are not laughing at me because I used a dialect that you're not familiar with. Why is it that other people from other countries can come over here in the USA and talk English, and it can be as broken can get, but you don't hear nobody saying anything? Oh yeah, I got it. I understand that. I understand it. But you let a black person mispronounce anything, everybody wants to pull it out and say, hey, you heard what he just said? He got to be dumb because he don't know the word. You know, they are not us. They are, what does he say? They are not like us. You stress the fact day after day, and you run through these gamuts day after day, but at the end of the day, you still didn't get past where you were. Now, I'm saying this because I want you to be able to, as a black person in America, to put the word out there. Whatever you want to say. And the best thing I can tell you is don't even care how it sounds, as long as you articulate A, B, C from the sender, to the receiver. And then, just to be sure, you say, hey, let me make sure I understood what you said. You want me to do A, B, and C. Is that correct? Is that what you said? Yeah, that's what I said. All right, I got it. But if I tell you I want A, B, and C, and you really don't know what A, B, and C is, even though I told you what A, B, and C is, then you're not doing anybody a favor. You got to know the language. And people have a tendency, those people, to want to tell you something and ensure that you don't understand it, because they don't want you there anyway. And they only got you there because you're taking lower pay. If you're making $20 an hour in America, that's not enough. for you to be able to live without worry, you can live without worry at any level, but I'm saying at the level that you should be on, or that you feel you should be on, you got to learn how to communicate, and you got to learn how to listen, man to man, white man to black man to white man, black to black, white to white. You got to learn how to articulate your words. Now, when you were growing up, I don't know if your parents told you, but the thing today is use your words. That's saying one thing: communicate. Communicate. Use your words. You can do it. I can do it. And I'm going to work on it. I'm going to continue to work on it. That's my objective, to get better day by day. Every single day, it's our responsibility to do something better. And if it's just communicating, then communicate. Why is it so hard for us to really want to go beyond, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? I do not want a man. This is just my preference, y'all. Y'all tell me what you think. I don't want a man walking up to me talking about, do you feel me? Hell to the no, I don't feel you. Because that don't make sense to me. Men don't say those kind of things to other men unless, do you feel me? We don't do that here. Do you feel me? There's certain things you don't say man to man. And that's one. And what I would like us to understand is that, you know what I'm saying? What is the point of you saying that? Do you know what I'm saying? Now, I don't know why he did that, but Flavor Flav was on CNN this morning. And by Flavor Flav being on CNN this morning, he said, you know how he talked. He kept saying, you feel me, you feel me, you feel me. I'm saying, damn. No, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Sooner or later, you got to stop that. You got to get beyond that, you feel me. You got to get beyond that, you know what I'm saying. What's the point of saying those things anyway? You feel me? The receiver, that's the man and man come on. Now you're talking man to woman. Let's go to man to woman conversation and woman to man conversation. Here we got the biggest problems in America. That's the leading reason people don't stay together, because they cannot communicate. Communication. What is it when it comes to a man and a woman that cause so many 43% divorce rate in America? Because of communication. Let's talk about it. Man, married, wife, at home, wants to eat dinner, tells his wife, get in the kitchen, get me some food on the stove. Is that a good way to get what you want? No. You're not going to get it. You might get it, but it might not be exactly like it's supposed to be, but you still get it. You might get it. So how would you say to your spouse, your friend, that you want something to eat? Get in there and do it. Do you talk to a woman like that? Do you send her on her way? Get Joe in there and fix my dinner. When I get home from work today, it better be done. What is your attitude toward how people should be acting in those situations? Do you curse? Do you curse with your spouse or your other half? How do you communicate with them? Is there a certain rule that you have? Is there a certain code word that you have? Is there a certain meeting that you have once a week or once a month? Is there a certain way that you understand, you know, when your spouse is becoming elevated? Do you go elevated with your spouse when your spouse start to elevate? Or do you go the other direction. You calm down. Because if you're escalating and they're escalating, then that's going to come into a potential problem. Gaslighting. Somebody may come to you and say something, man, you know, so-and-so said this about you. Now, if so-and-so said this about me, why are you coming over here telling me? Why did you tell me when so-and-so said it? That's the type of communication that create problems in America. And the way it's being communicated now to us as citizens, U.S. citizens here, we're not being treated right. We're not being spoken to right. We're not being handled right. We're not being paid attention to the right way. We're being used and abused as if it was 1860. The same thing. Why is it that they don't want to pay individuals what they're worth? Why would they pay you their money? They're going to pay you as less as they possibly can. And it's up to you to get as much as you possibly can out of that paycheck. And you're not going to get it if you're just being quiet. You got to communicate. You got to communicate. You think, see, black people, they think that the white man, I'm going to be honest with you, just, and I don't mean nothing disrespectful or racist or none of that. What I'm saying is, black people think the white man is supposed to recognize the work that he is doing. Why is it that you think the white man has to recognize your work and compensate you based on what they see, not what you said, what they see? My husband and I don't argue. We communicate. Honey, are you ready for dinner? What do you want for dinner? That was from Ray of Sunshine. How you doing, Ray? On TikTok. And that sounds really nice. I mean, I respect that. That's a beautiful thing to do with your spouse when it's time for you to request something. Now, you've been together 5-10 years now. You might want a little nookie. Do you have your way, or are you fighting an uphill battle? You have to decide what you're going to do in those situations, and it has to be communicate. Black people can do so much better if we would just communicate better. That is what the main reason Mr. Claude and I decided on communication as a topic for the day. Because again, communication, without it, nothing will ever get done. And for black people that are reluctant to kind of express who they are and what they want, I'm telling you now, if you don't open your mouth, you don't, what they say, closed mouth don't get fed. You're gonna have to say what you want. You in that job, and you expect that white man, to see what you're doing and to compensate you accordingly. You can forget it. He ignore the hell out of you. You can do all the things in there. You can be in every department doing everything you want to do, but they're not gonna compensate you based on what they see. They're only gonna compensate you based on what you bring to the table. And when it's time for your evaluation, then you go to that evaluation. Then you have a responsibility to you and your family to tell whoever your supervisor is what you do and what you expect to get paid. And now I ain't talking, if you're making $15 an hour, you ain't gonna go in there saying I want $25 an hour. You're gonna gradually get where you want to be, but you gotta be reasonable, and you gotta start at a position where you don't think you're going to get much pushback. They give you this little 3% raise every single year and a $500 bonus and forget about you. That little 3%, you don't even know it's there half the damn time. They penny pinch this shit all the way out. Excuse my language. I get excited about that kind of stuff. All the way out to the end of the year, and you cannot get better on pennies. You can't do better with pennies. You need dollars. And the only way you're going to get dollars is to communicate that to your boss if you have one. You got to talk. You got to talk. Man to your wife, man to your employer, man to your children, you got to talk. You talking to your children, you can't talk to them like you talking to another man. They don't understand the same level of communication as you do, and they definitely don't know how to take it when you're barking orders at them, telling them what they need to be doing or what to do or what not to do. They're going to say, I don't want to hear that. They're going to say, yeah, okay, Dad, or okay, Mom, when they're in front of you, but they're going to do the opposite because you have yet to figure out how to communicate with your kids. And how you going to learn how to communicate with your kids if all you're doing is telling them things? Does it have anything to do with strong blood? Oh, why did you say that, Ray? With strong blood women making it hard for men to communicate their feelings. I got you. This is from Ray Sunshine, a Ray of Sunshine on TikTok. Why is it so hard for men to communicate with strong blood women? I'm glad you said that. I do not believe in a man or us starting to keep that phrase attached to black women, because you don't hear that from Chinese men. You don't hear that from Chinese women. I'm a strong Chinese woman. I'm a strong white woman. You don't hear that. You hear that from black women and black men. Black men said too, oh, that's a strong black woman there. Now, who wants a strong black woman that won't do what biblical prophecies say you should be doing with your husband? Who wants that? Who wants that strong black woman that want to run you as a man? Now, if that's what you want, that's perfectly fine. You make that call. That's a difficult way to go, though, being a strong black woman, when you don't hear that in any other culture but black one. And why? It's another step, like you said, Ray, to alienate black man from black woman. It's been that way for the last 75 years, maybe longer, where they wanted to separate us to that extent. We got to do better. I keep saying it, and I say it, and I say it, and I say it again. That's my Malcolm X thing there. He said that. You got a sender, a receiver. That could be a man, a woman. That could be a child to child. If your child has never been able to have a decent conversation with you, can't articulate their feelings with you, that's from spouse, from husband, from children, from anybody that you have to deal with. If it's your boss, if you can't articulate your feelings to your boss, then no pay, no raise. If you can't articulate how you want your steak prepared, you're not going to get it the way you want. There's so many different ways that you can get better. You can't always think about what you got to say. Sometimes it just comes up and it comes out. That's the way it works. You don't have to, and who cares? Why would I be focused on that after I did it already? I'm done with what I said a few minutes ago. Let's move on. And if you want to readdress that, okay, we can do that. But let's do it under controlled circumstances when we go to counseling. Counseling for you, for me, for them is worth it. I'm telling you. Counseling saves relationships if you're willing to do it. That's what you got to do. Y'all know this is BNN 247, the real voice of Black USA. You know that we look for subscribers on YouTube. Now, I ain't in the thousands yet, but so I'll say for the hundreds of viewers that come to my page, please give me a moment of your time and subscribe on YouTube, BNN 247. I ask you to support BNN 247. I ask you to subscribe to BNN 247 because our objective here is to bring you different segments of information about us and how we live. I'm not trying to tell you about them. I want to tell you about how we are and how we can interact with them and move forward with them. But for one thing, I want you to really understand, you are not them and they're not like us. And you are never going to be in the same category as them. And they'll never be in the same category as us. We got to do our thing and focus on our projections and make those projections happen. Whatever it is you want to do, don't give up on it. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. I'm going to fail. Everybody's going to fail. If you ain't got no failures under your belt right now, you ain't done nothing. You ain't done nothing. You got to get in there and do it. And if you don't talk about it, it ain't going to happen. Many of you might be at an age where you still go out and have a beer or something at a bar and, go out and socialize, shoot pool, play basketball, go to the gym, whatever you may do. It takes communication. It takes communication, y'all. And once you understand the mechanics of communicating, then you usually come in on top. Man to man, there's no need for a black man to be fighting another black man over a miscommunicated thing. There's no need for a black man to be getting mad at another black man over something that was miscommunicated. Even if it was miscommunicated, it's our responsibility to think that it wasn't miscommunicated and clarify by saying, Johnny, you didn't just tell me to go mama or nothing like that, right? You didn't say that. I didn't hear you say that. No, man, I didn't hear what I said. You didn't hear me right. I'm saying if you're not communicating back and forth, then you really might get it wrong and then get yourself all up in a quagmire when you don't have to. Why would you put yourself in that position to either see when you get 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, you ain't out there trying to put your hands on nobody and you don't want nobody trying to put their hands on you. Now you might think I'm saying this in a rudimental way, in a low, that's all we're doing, talking hood stuff. No, this is life. Grown, old, rich people fight. Educated people fight over dumb stuff. So my objective is to give you the tools where you don't have to. You go out there and you get in that situation and somebody want to have a knuckle sandwich with you. What do? How do you de-escalate that situation? Through communication. To avoid a fight, Texas statute 36 will tell you can always walk away and run away. Read the law. And if you're walking away and you're running away, either one is better than life in the big house. Either one. Walk away or run away is better than life in the big house. Because odds are, if you got to go to their court, what do you think they want to do? You already know the objective from Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan. They all had one thing in mind. Law and order, lock up black people. because our populations are just too big. And for us to be only 12 to 14% of the United States population, why do we have such a large prison population? We're always talking about this pipeline to prison stuff, and most people really don't want to look at what it really is. You know what it is. It's our kids in school, and the public school system is the one who I think have created this situation for our kids where it's a pipeline to the prison. Public school. And they have created this because the parents no longer communicate with the schools. Here we go again, communication. If you're a parent and you have not been to your child's school and sit in there for a few hours watching how they do business, going to lunch with your child, figuring out who the teachers are, who his teachers are, they should know you and they should have your phone number. And they should be calling you instead of the police if there's a problem. But most of us can't get a hold. They can't get a hold to us because we're working. We're out there chasing that dollar and we're neglecting our children. Now, if you don't have children and you out there chasing that dollar, you need to double down on it. Get it. Go get it. But if you got somebody or something, a pet, that depends on you, then you have a responsibility to learn how to maneuver to better that child's or that spouse's life. That's what you're there for, to better that person's life. And in order to communicate what you don't know, you got to study. Like if I wanted to know what you know right now, if I wanted to know what you know right now, and I'm in touch with you, then my objective is to listen, to hear what you got to say, to look at you, to watch your eye movements, your hand movements, your body language. You know, when a child tells you whatever, what do you think? What do you believe if you're a parent and you're telling your child how to get something done and they say, oh, whatever, and then you walk off, what are you going to do? You're going to learn how to communicate better? Because if a child tells you that and they walk off, what do you think that means? That means that when that child was in a position to listen to you, you weren't talking. That's what that means. When that child could hear everything you said and that child worshiped the ground you walked on, you had an opportunity there, but you missed it. So when that child says whatever to you, think about whatever happened when that child was growing up. You, black man, black woman, black child. The best thing we can do right now, ascending master, how you doing? The best thing we can do now is learn whoever we need to talk to. I may have been in the house with somebody forever, or in the relationship with somebody forever, and never paid attention, never really learned how to communicate. Now that you've taken a moment to sit with me and Claude and you, then hopefully our conversation can give you a tidbit of information to help build your life. That's the objective. If anything, I hope what we've talked about today will help you go back to whomever is in your life and improve the communications that you're having with whomever is in your life. How hard can it be for you to want to be better? You cannot become complacent with where you are in America. If you ain't 60, 70 years old, you better be on the grind. Quit sitting back, allowing the world to pass you by because you don't want to do the little basics. It ain't hard. You know, and like I said, that little money that they paying you, it ain't nothing. They owe you at least a $10 raise at a minimum per however they pay you per hour. So in other words, you should be making, the average person should be making at least $26 to $30 an hour if you're an hourly employee. If you're not an hourly employee, you're a salary employee, your objective is 6 figures or better. 7 figures. Hey, figures are figures. If you can get it, get it. I would hope that that's what you would do. TikTok, thank you so much for being here today. I ain't gone. I'm going to close my show out and I'm coming to TikTok. But before I go, I want to say a couple of more things in closing. I want to say peace, love, and happiness to all this 2026 year. I want to say happy belated Valentine's Day. I want to say thank you so much for all the support you gave me in 2025. Now we're on 2026, and hopefully it's going to be a new year and a new thing that's going to be beneficial for you and for me and for you. But it's not going to happen if you don't want it to. That involves everything. So without going any further, I would like to say thank you. This is BNN 247. I'm your worthy brother, Smith-Bey, and this space is about the truth. And it is the real voice of Black USA, broadcasting live every Sunday at 3:30 p.m. So I will see you next Sunday at 3:30 p.m.